Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Rayceen Productions MC and producer. For this Team Rayceen forum, we had a discussion with several people from the organization Black Nonbelievers. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Let's start with everyone introducing themselves and sharing some information about their backgrounds and how they became involved with Black Nonbelievers. I'll start with Mandisa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mandisa Thomas. I am the founder and president of Black Nonbelievers. I'm originally a New York City native. I live in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and I was pretty much raised non-religious. I fully re-identified as an atheist in December of 2010. And after getting involved with a local atheist group, I realized that there was a need to create a specific platform to help increase the community for and advocacy for Black atheists and Blacks who are questioning religion in favor of leaving. And so we've been doing this now for almost 10 years, and I'm very, very happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Mandisa. Nice to meet you. I'll go to Madison next.
Okay, hi. Well, my name is Madison Paige. I am the founder and CEO of Bold Blue Campaigns. It's a political consultancy based in Washington, D.C., but that works with state and local Democratic candidates all across the country. And I'm also the director of People Over PACs. It's a super PAC that is and as home of the 5-point power acquisition plan for the American left. I discovered Black Nonbelievers in 2012 online. And at that time, I did identify as an atheist, but I didn't have know any other people who were, particularly Black people. And I was so relieved to find this group, and I've been a huge supporter ever since. Just really love the mission of the organization, absolutely necessary. So I'm really glad to be here and to actually be able to, from my perspective, professionally, to be able to advocate at the political level for some of the things that we're working toward socially in the Black Nonbelievers group.
Amazing, amazing. Nice to meet you, Madison. And of course, we also have Danile here. Nice to meet you.
Good afternoon. Nice to meet you as well. I go by Danile or Ro, so sometimes you might hear, and every now and then somebody will say Danile, so either one is fine. It's a pleasure to be here with you and with my sisters in this movement. And I've been a part of this particular group, Black Nonbelievers, for almost 10 years, almost as long as it's been around. And I am an artist. I'm an educator, a music educator. I'm also a former minister of music, and so I've worked in churches in multi-denominations along the way of my career in other parts of the music industry. I've worked in ministry in at least 10 denominations, and so I had a taste of different perceptions of what God was for different people. And I'd always had a background of a certain kind of combination of Black nationalist / African history centered education, even though I was raised in a Christian home. And so the type of father that I had and mother instilled in me a certain kind of critical thought process that even though I was still in the church, was being seeded along the way. And so later on in my life, as a minister of music, especially playing in different churches, sometimes in 2 different denominations in 1 week, it started to really kind of get the wheels going for once and for all, just to kind of really figure out what was going on. And eventually I ended up on the other side of faith in my journey and identified as a non-believer, as an atheist and agnostic in about 2009 or 10. And like Madison said, I was pleased to find this group. And I was specifically pleased to find this group in relation to what our country was going through politically at the time. So if you remember 2009, 2010, we really were in the end of the George Bush administration, which had been very adamant about the traditional marriage as a ethos, as a slogan, and that was something that was very, very pressing for a lot of congregations. And I was in congregations that used that political message to preach against gay issues, gay rights, gay affirmation, who preached messages of oppression, essentially, against the LGBT community. And so my coming out of religion coincided with coming out of the closet as well. And I'm bisexual identified, but still as a queer Black man in that space, finding myself without a space, essentially. And so those two experiences really were parallel. And specifically Black Nonbelievers, when I found a lot of non-believing groups, but Black Nonbelievers specifically really took a lot of people to task and defended people like myself, and spoke out and spoke up against homophobia, even in the Black atheist community. And so for that reason, I'll always have a real place in my heart for Black Nonbelievers, because that was never a conversation that needed to be negotiated.
Yeah.
I live. Wow. And just hearing you with that introduction, I would say we've had similar yet not parallel journeys. So it's great to be here with you all. And first question I want to begin with is, how important is it to build and sustain secular communities, and how does Black Nonbelievers work towards doing that? I'll start with you, Mandisa.
Yes, thank you. So it is absolutely important because we don't exist as human beings. We don't exist in a vacuum, right? It is absolutely important for us to connect with others, to have those networks, to have that support, to have affirmations. And unfortunately, the religious community has hijacked that legacy of having the ability to do that, and also with a sense of that conformity and feeling that guilt, and also enforcing white supremacy. So and then that has to be the conversation that we have to have, right? And so it's important for us to show that, for one, there are more of us out here. There are more of us who exist. We're living lives, and that it's hard. And that it can be challenging as a person to have to reconcile that, that indoctrination, especially the religious indoctrination, and to also have very few to no one else, perhaps in your family, to connect with on that.
Yes.
And as an organization, we seek to resolve that. And bringing people together, and also showing that, and yes, and like Danile said, combating those other notions and of those identities. And so there are many people who are going through that, and as they're shedding that religious dogma, they're shedding other they're shedding other dogmas as well. And and like Madison said, as far as the political sphere and what we advocate for, as we are pro-LGBTQ, we are pro-reproductive rights, we are pro-sexual liberation. And so all of these things come along with that secular and atheist identity, or at least they should. And so as an organization, being an actual body that has that are representing a number of us, and we can do so in a way that more people can come out. Or even and join in, even if they cannot be out. And so having definitely that, having us as that body, as an official organization that can bring people together, this is one of the reasons why it's very, very important, because we do sustain community, and we also build up that advocacy base.
Yes, and it's also really important to break down these stereotypes and misconceptions that people have of non-believers, of atheists, of I remember I was just on the street some weeks ago during the election period, running up to it, and I was with someone who was running in a local election, and then one of the constituents was like, "Yes, because we have to defeat the other man. He's an atheist. Can you believe that he's evil? He's evil. He's an atheist. So he's just gonna just be evil to her." And I'm just like, what? And he's just like, yep, he's just like Donald Trump. They're both atheists, and I was like, okay, wow. So it's like these misconceptions and these things, and many people, it's a lot of this ignorance also has to go away, and this ignorance is emblematic of the larger widespread ignorance that we see now and the perpetuating of that ignorance. Tell me, Madison or Danile, anyone want to tackle this? Has anything in the tumultuous year of 2020 created any specific challenges or led to any interesting situations for anyone as a secular person or for Black nonbelievers as an organization?
Well, I'll go first, Madison, if you want to jump in. I'll say that specific to 2020, we learned a few things this year. There was a U.S. secular survey that was performed by one of our colleagues, one of our sister organizations, American Atheists, and we participated in that, and we encouraged participants in our group to contribute to the survey, because there has never been a real actual accounting of the proportion of non-believers, of atheists and agnostics in this country. We do have, we are a part of what is considered to be the largest growing religious demographic in the country, which is to say the non-religious demographic.
Yes.
We're approaching almost 30% of people in the United States identifying as nuns. Now, out of the nuns, not everybody is atheist or agnostic. However, as a group, as a block of nuns, people who specifically do not check the box of I am a Christian, I am a Muslim, I am a Buddhist, or whatever, out of that group, we have a blind spot for who actually are the atheists and who are the agnostics, who are the secular humanists. So one of the things this year that happened was the U.S. secular survey, which was performed, which gave a whole lot of wonderful data that groups like ours can use to get a better picture of what our communities look like, what our issues are, what our psychological or mental health needs may be. A lot of people deal with what's called concealment, and concealment can lead to all sorts of depressive disorders. It can lead to suicide ideation. It can lead to stress in the family. It can lead to missed opportunities for education and involvement and inclusion in their communities. And so if anyone is interested in learning more about that, you can just Google U.S. Secular Survey, and you'll find the website specific to that, which gives the summary and the overview of that data. And that also can give you a real sense of the proportion of Black nonbelievers specifically, not just here in DC, but also around the country. So we learned that in 2020. We also learned a little bit more pursuant to or subsequent to the recent election. And so as we have data on what percentage of white evangelicals voted for Donald Trump, what percentage of white Catholics voted, what Black versus white versus minority groups and so forth. We also have data on non-believers and atheists and agnostics who actually did vote for or against Trump. And that has political implications for our groups as well, because with all of that data, we can, to Madison's point and to what Mandisa and what I've been doing, lobbying in Congress, advising the Free Thought Caucus in Congress, we're able to take our issues to lawmakers for legislation. And so one of the initiatives is Do No Harm. I've been lobbying with Black Nonbelievers, with a number of different groups, for a Do No Harm legislation to be passed, which will affect positively our group. It also affects positively LGBT people in terms of services, mental health, medical services, contracting, labor, evictions, and all that kind of stuff. Prescriptions, people being able to go get prescriptions. And so we have more data than we've ever had before in this year that can speak to what our specific needs are as a community of non-believers that is, like I said, one of the largest non-religious or religious groups in the country. And so that's a huge undertaking and a huge benefit of 2020 for us.
Amazing, amazing. I like that. Madison, I want to ask you, especially since you're in tune, especially politically when it comes to this. There's just been a new Supreme Court appointment. We see how there have been, many attempts to break down that core value of separation of church and state here in this country. Tell me, how involved is the organization with issues regarding separation of church and state?
So I want to say that Black Nonbelievers, the thing that I will echo what Rose said earlier, the thing that I like about is that we are non-believers, we're atheists, we're rationalists, we're all about creating that. But I think the important thing about this, and this is something that both Mandisa touched on as well as Ro, and I think this is going to be important politically moving forward, is that organizations like ours and other atheist organizations, it's going to be incredibly important for us to intersectionalize this movement. In other words, we have, in some ways, the atheist community has placed itself in this separation of church and state box. And that's obviously what we want to make sure that happens. But what we're discovering and what we knew this all along, but we're discovering it. And it really echoes what Rose said earlier about his coming out and his moving away from the church at the same time, is that there's intersectionality between the atheist, the traditional atheist separation from church and state and teach science in the classroom issues, right? And other issues of social justice, right? There is no separation between the people who are out advocating actively in LGBTQ spaces, people who are advocating for education, people who are advocating for reproductive rights. There's a lot of cross-section between these communities of people, even if they're not atheists. So I think politically, as we move forward, I think it's going to be very vitally important for our community, our non-believing community, to form coalitions, strong coalitions with advocacy organizations that are advocating in these atheist adjacent fields. Mm-hmm. LGBTQ rights, reproductive rights, education, science. These are atheist adjacent issues because in these types of issues, if we have a very strong theocracy in our country, all of these other issues are going to suffer, as we're beginning to see, right?
Yes,
so it's going to be, I feel, as we move forward as a movement, forming strong coalitions and strong bonds where we're advocating together with one voice, because our issues all are dependent upon keeping our government secular.
Yes.
And so I think that the thing to do that we're going to be looking at as we move forward in the atheist movement is helping these other advocacy organizations understand that all of their issues rely on a secular government. And if we can't maintain a secular government, your LGBTQ issues are not going to work. Your reproductive rights issues are not going to work. We're going to not have good science in classrooms and good educational policies. These things are intimately and inextricably linked, and we have to address them together. And if we do that, we have so much power, because we're not just 30% of nuns and in a subsection of the nuns. We're like 70% of the country, right? Like now suddenly We are
Work.
much more powerful than we were segmenting ourselves into these individual verticals, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. That's the tea. That is some true tea right there. True tea right here. Well, we're coming up to the holidays, right? Let's talk about the holidays. It's a time when families gather, whether in person or online, you know what I mean? And sometimes this can create tension between religious and non-religious people. What's your advice for non-believers interacting with religious loved ones? And what's your advice for religious people who are interacting with people who are not religious? And I know I think everyone here are also caretakers, so that might have a thing to do with it. Mandisa, talk to me about this a little bit.
Yeah, so this often comes up within our communities, atheists who are struggling with family, especially around the holidays and the holidays themselves, and how overwhelming they can be, and how for many it's often a sad time. So for those who are still struggling, please know that, for one, there are communities out here and there are organizations like ours that build community and offer a place for you to convene with other like-minded individuals. There are also other secular gatherings now that are becoming more commonplace, such as Human Light. You can find out more information on that. Also, it's important to re-educate folks on the fact that Christmas was and is a secular holiday. It is not based around the birth of Jesus. And so we often find ourselves in a position where we are re-educating folks and giving the fact that, yes, atheists can celebrate holidays. We can celebrate Christmas. We can do what we want to do.
That's the point.
Yes. And it's like, we're not bound to not doing anything at all. There are some who choose to opt out, and that's totally fine. And also allow yourself that space to be liberated. You don't have to engage your family if you don't want to. That is a choice, or you can do so for only a limited amount of time or as much as you can take. It is okay to find other family. And that's the one thing that I know I've said over the years, is that you can choose family. You can choose your community. You are not bound to one, you are not bound to one way of thinking or one way of doing. And for the religious people who may be on the other side, again, this is a time for reflection. This is a time to re-educate yourself and learn more. And that just because someone doesn't share the same point of view, it doesn't mean they're wrong. It also doesn't mean you stop having things in common, because I've had family tell me, well, what do I say to you now? How about we do the things we always did?
Yes,
but this is not something that has to be a deal breaker, right? And so this is a way, even if it's uncomfortable for both sides, it's a way for us now to actually build and build new ground, because it's always a learning opportunity, and to learn how to engage better, and how can we do more with each other, or if that is a deal breaker, then that's fine too. It's always about, about restructuring.
Your calendar,
and it
TRP strategy meeting.
We also have to, just consider that. So I would say for both, for both religious and non-religious folks, it's a good time for us to come together and to celebrate.
Yes,
it
is.
Doesn't always have to be on, and some of the religious people need to throw that God out of the conversation for a little while.
Yes, and there's ways people can hang. We don't have to go to mass together, but we can watch like Mariah Carey's new Christmas thing on Apple Plus together, and sing, she sings Joy to the World in it. You can get a little church from that if that's what you want, you know what I mean? Danile, you're from a Christian upbringing. What's that like for you? What's the holidays like for you with that? And what advice do you have for people?
Sure. I first echo everything Mandisa said. So though I come from a Christian background, I don't have, at least in my immediate family, a lot of holy rollers or, super, evangelical or hardcore radical sort of, religious family. That said, it still is a space that I have to navigate from time to time. And Fortunately, I don't have it as hard as other people do, especially in our group. We have some people who come from Jehovah's Witness backgrounds, or they were in, super, super heavy cult-ish, denominations. But I will say my holidays tend to be pretty easygoing. I tend not to, it's every year I try to get a little better in negotiating how I move in those spaces, because I don't typically like the anxiety that comes along with running around and, we got to get this and we got to do such and such. And, I just don't like it. But I have other reasons that may or may not be, based in religion for that. And I'm still working through that. But I'm fortunate to have a pretty moderately religious family, especially as folks get older. It has become more ceremonial than anything else. And so it's interesting to see, when I was younger, church was something that we always did. We had to do it. It was blah, 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 blah. And as I get older, it's interesting to see the older folks are just kind of like, it's just like, and that's something that, like, I think a lot of us have found is that some of us have easier times as we get older and as our elders get older. As far as how to navigate that, just to echo what Mandisa said, my general disposition about disclosure, as far as me being an atheist, is it's at my discretion, number one, and it's also it's at my discretion whether or not I tell someone that I'm an atheist. It's also at my discretion how much I engage that conversation, especially if it becomes acrimonious. If someone is trying to check me, trying to interrogate me, trying to make me feel like I have to come up with all the right talking points right then and there to satisfy them. I think coming out of the LGBT, queer experience, especially of people from my generation, and we're all pretty much the same generation, we're all Gen Xers, we have lived through a lot of subjugation and objectification of our bodies as Black people, as queer people, as atheists, and then in the case of our sisters, as women. And so our bodies are politicized, our identities are politicized, and part of our affirmation of saying we're an atheist, we don't believe this, I don't subscribe to this religion or this belief or this supernatural sort of thought process, part of us affirming that is saying that you cannot objectify me. You cannot place upon me your preconceptions or your stereotypes or what your pastor said that I was. Your pastor thinks that I'm the devil, as you were talking about people saying, they're evil and so forth. You cannot reduce me to these superficial talking points to try to characterize me as your enemy. And if you think that, then you have to work that out on yourself on your own time. You don't get to, just show up on Christmas or Thanksgiving Eve, and just start basically talking shit, like you need to be respectful of who I am as a person. You need to be respectful of my journey, of my thought process, of my experience, because there are real lived experiences that informed my decision to not subscribe to this faith. And I demand that you respect that. And so what I would say for atheists or just generally people who are navigating, questions about faith and religion, go through your process. You don't have to share with everybody everything. You can save some stuff for later. You can go through it until you figure out how you want to discuss it or how you want to talk about it. You don't have to give other people answers on the spot just because they interrogate you. You demand respect from people, even if it's your family members. And, like I said, coming in that space of being queer and the LGBT identity, it's important that we claim our bodies and that we don't let people tell us that we're going to hell, that we don't let people tell us that we're unredeemable and that we can't be, saved and that, no, I reject that. And so I reject it at all times of year, especially at Christmas.
Great way to end that. Great way to end it out. And as we're rounding out, I want to ask Mandisa, one, how can people become involved and support the organization? And then to close us out, I'll just have everyone give a brief final thought and share with our viewers how they can learn more about you, contact you, and keep up with what you are doing and upcoming events. So Mandisa, take us out.
Yes. So if you want to get involved with the organization, participate and support first, please visit our website at blacknonbelievers.org. It gives a lot of information about who we are, what we do, and what we have coming up. You may also follow us anywhere that there is a social media platform. We are on Facebook. You can type in Black Nonbelievers. We have a public page and a closed private forum. We are on Twitter at B Nonbelievers. The B and the N are capitalized. We are on Instagram at B Nonbelievers Inc. And also we have a YouTube channel at Black Nonbelievers Inc. And also you may, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So donations to us are tax deductible, and there are ways directly that you can support us on our website and other platforms. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Madison?
So anyone who is interested in supporting our political activities, we work with Democratic state and local candidates in all 50 states. You can go to boldbluecampaigns.com for that. Or if you have an interest in a more broad, strong political strategy, you can go and check out our 5-point power acquisition plan for the American left at peopleoverpacs.org. It is a super PAC that's focused on taking power, social and political influence away from the American right and moving progress toward, progress in America. And actually, it's a 5-prong approach to doing that. You can go to peopleoverpacs.org for that. And there's ways that you can contribute on either of those platforms or find out more about who we are and what we do.
Awesome. Danile. Or Danile.
Thank you so much again. It's been a pleasure to be here. I am happy to share the Black Nonbelievers of DC page. We are on Facebook as BN of DC, capital B, capital N of and DC. So BN of DC. You can find us on Facebook, where we are always engaged in conversation that you can join and be a part of, share, or just keep up to date with whatever our events are. We are also on Meetup. You can also find us through all of the sites that Mandisa mentioned, through the website and the Twitter and the Instagram page. We've got quite a lot going on. We've had a lot going on this year, even during the quarantine session or quarantine part of the year. And so, there's conversation to engage in, there's lobbying to engage in, there is support to engage in, financial support for these groups, because we all work on a volunteer basis, and the initiatives that we have require support that money can help to produce events that we are doing, series and hosts and different sorts of guests that we have to come speak. So there's a lot of ways that a person can engage with us. And I just encourage people to just be who they are, to ask the questions that are relevant to whether or not they actually subscribe to a particular notion of belief, and be honest with themselves about that. That's the biggest thing that they could do, in addition to joining up with us, is just be critical in your thought about what religion means and what are the claims that are being propagated. Do you agree with them, or do you not agree with them? Do they have evidence? Do they not have evidence? And what does it mean when you find out that answer? Lastly, our group is, as Madison mentioned earlier, intersectional. We are a very intersectional group. We've got a lot of different types of Black people. I'm Caribbean American. I'm cruising St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. We've got people who are Jamaican. We've got people who are from, we've got people who are from East Africa. We've got people who have lived in Europe, and people who've lived in South America. We've got women. We've got LGBT folks of all stripes. A huge part of our membership is LGBT folks. We've got folks who are parents. We've got people who are elders. We come in all shapes and sizes, and so when you join with Black Nonbelievers, you join a real coalition. And so we're engaged in critical thought, and we're also engaged in I hope it's okay to say Black power.
Black power.
That's
And that's
right.
a great way to end this. Thank you guys so much. Viewers, please look in the description below for the links. And guests, thank you so much for your time. This has been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please follow and subscribe to us on social media. Facebook at Black Nonbelievers, Instagram at B Nonbelievers Inc., Twitter at B Nonbelievers with the B and the N capitalized, and YouTube at Black Nonbelievers Inc. Also, you can support the work of Black Nonbelievers by making a tax-deductible donation. Please visit our website at blacknonbelievers.org to donate directly, where you can also make your support monthly. You may also support through Cash App at the hashtag Black Nonbelievers, selecting us as a beneficiary on Amazon Smile, and also purchasing BN merchandise at our online store. Finally, we hope that you will join us virtually or in person in 2021 for all of our major events, including our 10th anniversary celebration in January, the Women of Color Beyond Belief Conference in September, and BNCCon, our cruise convention, in November. All safety and social distancing protocols will be followed at each event.
We thank our guests for joining us for this edition of Team Rayceen Forum. Please share your thoughts and questions in the comment section. Importantly, we ask you to follow Team Rayceen on social media and subscribe to our Team Rayceen YouTube channel, of course, honey. And it is totally free. So just click the button, just click it. It's one click. And know that we appreciate each subscriber. And the more subscribers we have, the more access we have as creators. And the better our channel can be. So thank you for watching.